Welcome to Green Building Matters, the original and most popular podcast focused on the green building movement. Your host is Charlie Cicchetti, one of the most credentialed experts in the green building industry and one of the few to be honored as a LEED Fellow. Each week, Charlie welcomes a green building professional from around the globe to share their war stories, career advice, and unique insight into how sustainability is shaping the built environment. So settle in, grab a fresh cup of coffee, and get ready to find out why green building matters.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the next episode of the Green Building Matters podcast. Thanks for listening every week, where I get to interview a green building professional somewhere in the world. And today I've got Jen on. She's a LEED Fellow. She's out in Los Angeles, but we're going to see those roots maybe even tied to the Midwest. So Jen, how you doing today?
Great. Thanks. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I can't wait to unpack your story. I know we see each other in different circles around green buildings. And I like to take our guests to get a peek into where'd you get that start. So where'd you grow up and go to school?
Sure. I grew up in Stowe, Ohio, so between kind of Akron and Kent. And I went to high school at an all-girls high school in Akron, Our Lady of the Elms, and then Ohio University in Case Western in Cleveland before moving to Los Angeles.
Okay. And, when you were kind of, studying and thinking about what you might want to do when you grow up, so to speak, like what were you thinking and where'd you end up? So kind of tell us what that was like.
Sure. It's actually a really long story. I'll try to condense it. I knew I wanted to help people save the world, but that was really what it looked like. So when I went to college, I originally went pre-med thinking I was going to help people that way. Quickly learned that was not something I wanted to do and decided to do psychology before I found social work. So I got my master's in social work to run nonprofits and was extremely burnt out from working in sexual assault, foster care, and adoption. And ironically, had an opportunity to work in the movie industry and took it and moved to LA as soon as I got out of grad school. And I moved to LA, worked in the movie and music industry for about 10 years. And my boss at the time decided we needed to build a LEED platinum airplane hangar for our 737 here in Burbank, California. And I said, I produce movies and music. What's LEED? Why does it need to be platinum? And why is this my job? And that was in 2006. So you can imagine, LEED in 2006 trying to apply an airplane hangar to new construction, right? 2.0 maybe. And I used to call Rick Padrizzi all the time. He'd be like, Rick, this isn't fair. We can't do this. And he's like, Jen, that's not how this works. So by 2008, we had built a LEED Platinum airplane hangar. It was not only LEED Platinum. I realized a few years ago working on our website, it was also not only net zero, but net positive. But we didn't even have that terminology in 2008, right? Yeah. So that was super exciting. That was my first project. And subsequently, they opened a construction company. So for 4 years, I moved over from entertainment to the construction company and worked with them and was doing sustainability over there. Loved it. And after 4 years, they came to me and said, you need to start your own company. People want to hire you as a consultant and don't need our GC services. So in 2012, I started ASAP, a sustainable production. And at that same time, the WELL building standard was being created. And my boss had happened to have been an investor in that. So I got involved with that before it was released to the public and very quickly became an expert in the WELL building standard early on as well. And so for the last 11 years now, I've been running ASAP and we work globally doing sustainability and wellness, both for buildings and at the organizational portfolio level.
Well, that pre-med kind of came back in the form of WELL, and you were early in that. Actually, I recently, Jen took my family, and we went to the Warner Brothers studio, which has a LEED Platinum building there. I was impressed to take a plaque, we call it there, a selfie in front of that LEED plaque. So a lot of LEED there, and that hangar, what a great early project. I usually ask, did you have an aha moment to get into sustainability and make a career in green buildings? And I think you kind of explain that to us. And then, but how about the entrepreneurship journey? It sounds like you were pretty much like told you should do this, huh?
Yeah. I kind of followed, the guys I worked with at Shangri-La, from Shangri-La Entertainment, Shangri-La Music, Shangri-La Construction. And I just knew they were going to lead me to where I was supposed to go. Like I knew it wasn't entertainment. I knew I was meant to be doing something else and somehow they were going to get me there. And once I started doing sustainability with them, I was like, wait, I can get paid to be a tree-hugging hippie with business sense. Like, this is my dream job. And so, yeah, right. When they're like, you should go out and do this on your own. I'm like, this is scary, but, I've got them behind and their clients. And so it was just a really exciting opportunity.
Well, sometimes we need that nudge. So talk about maybe any mentors along the way, anyone you looked up to, or maybe someone opened a door for you, anyone you want to give a shout out to?
Oh, geez. I mean, it goes so far back, right? To like mentors in high school. I still visit when I'm home in Ohio. My favorite, high school biology teacher, Mrs. Kermisses, right? Like favorite. Wouldn't be here without her. There were so many right along the way. And then when I got into sustainability, it was so unique because often when you're out in the world and business, people are fighting to get ahead, right? They don't necessarily want their competitors to win. When you work in sustainability and wellness, we want everyone to succeed, right? Because we have the same end goal to help people and save the planet. And so it was really incredible when I started to have people like Jamie Knack of 3 Squares Inc., who I just saw as this incredibly successful woman doing all the right things, working with all the right types of clients, say, hey, if you need anything ever, I'm here for you. And that was awesome. And I've tried to repay that as I've gone along, having all these people and even the guys at Shangri-La who taught me so much business. I literally would not be anywhere near where I am without Steve and Andy and everybody else in that office over the 10 years I worked with them. And so I could never narrow it down. I feel like there've been so many different mentors in every area of life since I was a child that have just really gotten me where I am. And I think that's why I'm so involved in trying to pay that back because I'm so grateful for that.
Oh, man. Thanks for giving us a peek in here. I love it. And you're right. This industry, this green building movement, we're all about that rising tide and this common mission. So well said. So also looking back, what are some of your proudest achievements?
Oh, yeah. Okay. I mean, in general, being a mom, I have 2 boys. They're 12 and 14. So of course they're high on that list. Having a business for 10 years, it's taken a lot, especially as a single mom, doing it that entire time. But it's so rewarding. It's at its ups and downs, but I really do love it. And then if I look at some of like my favorite projects, we did a project called Step Up on Vine, where we took, some of the most mentally ill homeless on the streets of Los Angeles and put them into permanent living communities that essentially had solar and had gardens on the roof and were LEED platinum and really, made them feel valued and had health and wellness in mind. And this was back before the WELL standard was there to help guide that, right? So looking at some of my favorite projects, the Hangar, of course, was just such an incredible game changer in how you could do things, especially in that industry. But yeah, we're doing some senior living work right now. And that's also super rewarding to know that, we can be touching 280 senior living communities around the country and actually be making a difference in their COVID response and their health and wellness for their employees, and looking at how are they doing, de-electrification and decarbonization and all of these things. So I'd say where we get to give back is probably where I'm most excited and proud about my work.
Well, it's fantastic. Yeah, well, you get to work all over, sometimes just right there in your backyard and your community. It's just so meaningful. Talk to us a little bit about credentials and the USGBC and WELL. So to our listeners, some have been doing this a long time and you're giving them a spark. They're so excited about what they heard. And then some are like just now getting into this movement. But, what have credentials meant to you? What is maybe volunteering with IWBI or the USGBC? Can you just talk about that for a minute?
Sure. So I'll start on the side of USGBC because I've been with them for probably about 15 years volunteering. So you have USGBC National and, have been involved with them, a member, I think since 2006 or 2008, something along those lines. I've attended Greenbuild. I'm a LEED AP BD&C. I'm a LEED AP Homes, LEED faculty, LEED fellow, right? So obviously I believe in those credentials and I'm honored to be a LEED fellow. So for me, the credentials, I think they're a value. They help people understand that you're committed, that you've done some of that work, And I think when I look at USGBC LA as a chapter where I was on the board for 6.5 years, some of my dearest friends in life now personally have come from that chapter. Some of my greatest mentors, my partners, collaborators, clients, plugging into that chapter and being involved both as a volunteer, with everything that they do in the Center for Green Schools and Apple, Great Apple, I can never get that one right, Give Back Day of Service. There's just so many ways you can plug in and learn and people. And that's been a huge benefit and asset for my career and my company. So yeah, I can't imagine where I would be in my career or, how much I've learned without both national and the local Los Angeles chapter and our board.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I know the LA chapter, very, very active there. So for our listeners in Southern California, make sure you reach out. And then you mentioned you got an opportunity to be so early in the wellness movement, right? Even before the pandemic, it's like, hey, we need to talk about healthy buildings. And then, gosh, pandemic hits, and it's like, how do I make this a healthy space? So can you hit on that a little bit more?
Yeah. So when I was introduced to the WELL building standard, it was like a pilot before V1, right? It hadn't been released to the market. This was 2012. And I was like, wait a minute, there's something that's like everything I've been telling people my whole life, right? Like I've been a vegetarian for 30 some years now. I'm a vegan. I raised my kids that way, right? Like all the things I've been doing around health and talking about for all these years was suddenly in this like standard, much like LEED, right? It was like, okay, we can measure how healthy the building is for the people or planet. Now we can measure how healthy it is for the people. And it was just like everything that was missing in LEED that I had like been looking for more, right, was in WELL. And so to look at these 10 concepts of, air, light, water, mind, all of them, it also included a lot of my social work. So when you look at community and mind and some of those features, and now the equity rating that'll be released, in the fall, that was really getting back to my social work roots of like, I get to now take care of people in a meaningful way that actually has an impact. It's measurable, it's verifiable, and I can do that at this large scale. Whereas in social work, I was really sad and burnt out and quite frankly, like hated the world and everybody in it, and this allows me to just make a difference in a way that I really wanted to. And so WELL has done that in a way that's very scientific and global and easy to implement. And so we've been actually working with the WELL building standard for 10 years now. So I was one of the first WELL APs, Provisional WELL APs in the world, WELL faculty, and I travel the world teaching WELL. And we even teach it to a lot of our competitors. Again, our dear friends. We want everyone to succeed. We want the movement to succeed. And so the more people that get it right, the more healthier people we have in the world living longer, more vibrant lives.
Love it. All right. I'm seeing the pre-med, the social work, and
yeah.
all kind of helping. Okay. So take us to current day, Jen. Tell us a little more about your company and how it's grown over the years. And, what are you best known for and where do you want to take things?
Sure. Yeah. Great question. So, ASAP, it's had ebbs and flows. We grow and then sometimes we'll shrink down a little and then we'll grow again. So we really started with LEED naturally. When we got in, that's what we were focused on. We would have people come to us looking for kind of white glove sustainability based, not doing LEED. So we did a lot of that as well. And then WELL, honestly, I got started in that pretty quickly after I started my company. And so we very quickly became known for WELL because we were the only consultants actually out there and doing it and working on all those first projects in the world outside of Salos and then IWBI. Sure. And so I think in the market, we're still known a great deal for being, the WELL experts and doing that at scale with portfolios. We were some of the first portfolios in the world implementing it as well. And I love that. That is somewhere we want to continue to stay, is working with WELL, being at the forefront of it because we really believe in it and think, that it's going to make such a huge impact in people's lives and in such a meaningful way. With LEED, when I started to work with portfolios, I realized I may know WELL at a portfolio level, but I don't know how to implement at the portfolio level in a large corporation that I needed some of that knowledge. And we brought a president to our company, John Harrison, and he had been at Starbucks for 12 years and had, overseen their LEED volume program of over 1,600 certifications in all 50 states and 20 plus countries. And so by bringing John on, I think it also opened us back up to that LEED market more where people were like, oh, wait, these people know how to do LEED at volume as well. So we've really become known now as the sustainability and wellness people that can do it globally and for organizations at scale. And I love that. But what we've really noticed in the last 2 years is the ESG market has been flooding us with requests. And so some of that work that we now have taken on over the last 2 years is looking at ESGs, from the organizational level, right? Because we're already implementing all their sustainability and wellness attributes. So helping to put that together in a more cohesive, ESG reporting strategy, all the way down to GRES or, any other built environment level reporting for ESGs. And then everything from, looking at decarbonization, electrification, energy star portfolio benchmarking, play to zero, for instance, with ARC. So we've been really branching out in the last 2 years and bringing on a lot more scope that fulfills ESGs holistically, because that's what the market and our clients are demanding. That's what some of the Fortune 500 and very large companies are putting out in their RFPs is we want someone to come in and fulfill all of these ESG strategies and needs for us from top to bottom and bottom to top. And we've created partnerships to be able to do that.
Oh, wow. You've made some good moves. And actually, I interviewed John when he was at Starbucks on this podcast, I guess, several years ago. So really great hire, great advocate for all things sustainability. So it's exciting to hear. Okay, so this next question I love to ask is, what's next? So, Jen, what do you think's coming at us down the road in this green building movement?
Wow, it's such a good question. I do think that we're going to see, looking at sustainability as a whole, I think people are going to be focusing more on health and wellness. I think that that's very important. Coming out of that side, I really see diversity, equity, inclusion as something that's really solutions are being sought. I was at the Green Sports Alliance's summit in Minneapolis this summer. And I had so many people saying, we're looking for a solution around this. And I was like, oh, good news. IWBI, the International Well Building Institute, has a well equity rating coming out that had a 2-year global advisory to sit down and say, what matters, who's not at the table, what voice aren't we hearing? And I think that's so much of what's important in sustainability, right? Because I think in sustainability, as we look at it, we've done a really great job in our buildings. We've started to understand how to make the difference, right? We know how to do these things. Now it's a matter of the innovators who are always innovators and willing to spend the money and do it first. And then we have, the codes or whatever, the laws, right, that bring us along to also pull the people behind that aren't willing to jump on or make those changes. And so I do think that as we look at sustainability, it's going to be more people focused. How are we making sure transportation is being reduced on the sustainability side for the planet, but then how are we helping people move in healthy, ways as well? Looking at electrification, we don't need gas in our homes. That's not healthy for us, but that also will help us to be able to, use solar and not have to have gas coming into our homes. So looking at how sustainability and human health work together, and then also ensuring while doing that everybody has a seat at the table and a voice while sitting at that table.
Wow, you nailed it. I agree with all those things, and still a lot of work to do, right, on the green building front. But fortunately, I personally think we've made a lot of progress, and it's easier to have the conversations, but still work to do. And look at all these other things. It goes back to what you said earlier. Just there's more good to do here, and a lot of like-minded people. We're making some change. So let's get into a little bit more about you. What would you say is your specialty or gift?
Oh, wow. I don't know if anybody's ever asked me that question.
Humbling question. Sometimes if you have a hard time answering it, it's what would your colleagues maybe say? What's your specialty or gift?
I would say it's one of two things. It's either that I'm a good connector. I'm really great at putting people and things together, or people and people together, and also giving back. Like my commitment to actually taking care of people. Like this isn't a job to me. This is my passion. So everything I'm doing is truly authentic in that, like, I want to take care of people and give back and make sure everybody, has a, healthy, safe, sustainable life.
That's good. Good answers. I love it. So do you have any good habits or routines, rituals you could, tell us about?
Yeah, it's funny. I feel like they come in ebbs and flows. So yoga is one of my favorite. I really try to get to yoga regularly because obviously it's, a good workout, but also it's like mind, body, and spirit. And so often just to take that hour and 15 minutes to sit on my mat and just breathe and be present and have nothing electronic or, no disruptions really is good. So I try to do that often. The weeks that I have my kids, we go to the gym instead. So, getting to either the gym or yoga, making sure I'm getting that movement. Yeah. I'm a vegan now of like 9 months. I've been a vegetarian of 30 some years. And I would say that type of diet for me is kind of like a habit or ritual of something that's super important to like who I am and what I do. Getting enough sleep is also really high on my list. I didn't used to be that person. I used to be that person who could go without sleep and work really, really late. And now my sleep, I know, is super vital for my performance the next day.
It's good for that self-awareness. On the vegetarian and vegan side, I'm sure you get asked, what's the hardest part? I'm not going to ask you that. What's your favorite part about just making that a priority?
It's actually how I feel. Yeah. So, being a vegetarian forever, like I've always just kind of felt healthy. But when I went plant-based like 9 months ago, it was supposed to be a 7-day plant-based challenge. And I started losing so much weight that I was like, I'm just going to keep doing this. I ended up at this point, I've lost about 30 pounds total. I had gained weight during COVID, right? Wow. And everyone's like, wait, all you did was cut out dairy and eggs, right? And what it was is it wasn't the dairy and eggs aspect of it, right? Because I was already vegetarian. It's that I can no longer eat the cookies, the cupcakes, the ice cream, all the junk food my kids would have and leave. And I didn't have self-control and would just eat it. I can't eat that. I can't go to In-N-Out and grab a milkshake and, all that kind of stuff. And so the weight loss was actually all the sugar and crappy foods that I could still eat as a vegetarian that eating plant-based or vegan, I couldn't eat. And so I feel healthier, like as a habit, or like what I like most is like when I'm somewhere and I actually say, oh, I can't get this, like there's that disappointment, but I'm actually happy because I know like, oh, in the past I would have eaten that. I wouldn't have felt well after I ate it, and now I'm not having that experience or putting the weight back on. So that's been really,
That's inspiring. Thanks for sharing that with us. I mean, it's so important, and you're nailing it. That's awesome. Thank you. I'm a fan of a bucket list. What are one or two things maybe on your bucket list?
Yeah, that's a good question. I try to live my bucket list, but there are definitely countries I haven't been to. So like traveling to countries I haven't been to for sure is up there.
What's one of those countries though you'll get to?
Croatia's high on that list. Greece.
Oh, here's
yeah. Greece. Yeah, those two. It's funny. I've been all around to countries surrounding them. Vietnam as well. And Laos. There's a few over there that I want to get to that I haven't made it to. So those are countries that I want to go to. What else is on my bucket list? It's so funny. I should have canned answers for these, and I don't.
Well, I mean, some it's adventure, some it's I want to write a book. It's who knows. I've heard a lot of different things. I want to sail for a year. I mean, you'd be surprised some of the answers I get. But I think it's just these are the things that get us excited. That if we want to happen, we got to be intentional about. So I know you'll get to those countries. Yeah. Anything else pop in your head there?
No, I'm just thinking it's I like to build schools in other countries like Nepal and Malawi. And so I guess on my bucket list is getting to the other countries that I work with a nonprofit called Build On, and they build in very specific countries. And so it's I've done Malawi and I've done Nepal, and I'm going back to Malawi with my company next summer. But I'm okay, I do want to get to Guatemala, and I want to get to Haiti, and I want to get to these other countries that, Mali, that they serve as well. And so I guess my bucket list would be giving back through Build On by getting to other countries, but also looking at what are other ways I can be, giving back at that level of building a school in another country.
Amazing. Well, good answer. Hey, next, let's talk about books. It doesn't have to be a building specific, industry specific book, but is there a book you'd recommend to our listeners?
Oh, wow. Such interesting questions, Charlie.
Lauren, I'm so proud of you for not preparing and writing out your answers. This is really fun. You're doing great.
Awesome. Books that I would recommend. It's so funny. I'm my favorite book is The Little Prince, which is a child's book, but it really has so many
A lot of our listeners have kids. They'll note that down. That's good.
I mean, it really is one of those books that's even as an adult, you go back and you read it and it just holds true to so many really good, important life lessons. So yeah, not the typical I'm trying to think of all the amazing green building. All of my friends have written green building books. I feel like everybody I know, I'm constantly, I have stacks of my friends' books. They're all so incredible.
Sure. We're going to put that one in the show notes. That is an excellent answer. My boys are 14, 11, and 9. So
okay.
Good answer. Just two more questions. This is fantastic. This one, career advice. Is there anything you wish you'd have known earlier in your career?
Oh, wow. Yeah, there's probably a lot of things I wish I would have known. It's so interesting, really looking at I have a lot of 2 to 26-year-olds that work for us, and they really understand their value and worth. And I don't feel I'm 45. So, 20, 25 years ago when I was starting out, I don't know that I knew my value or worth or, how to speak up for myself in a situation and in a room full of people and I'm pretty outspoken. I'm the one in the room that typically does, but just looking at, just how people are prepared these days to enter the workforce compared to how I felt prepared to actually deal with people and politics and all of that goes into having a job and career. I'm grateful I have my master's in social work and psychology because that helped me a great deal. But I think just knowing my value and worth and how to speak up for myself and how to find really good mentors is probably the things that I would have told myself to start with.
That's fantastic. Yeah, a lot of good wisdom here you're sharing with our listeners. And my last question, let's say someone is listening to this podcast. They're loving to hear your story
You made some adjustments and gosh, look at you over the last 10, 11 years, just going all in, building up your business here, making a difference, and they're getting inspired. But let's say they're just now jumping in to the green building movement. You and I have been doing it a while, but let's say they're just jumping in. Do you have any words of encouragement for them?
Yeah, get involved. Find your local sustainability organizations, whether it's USGBC, ULI. I mean, there's so many great organizations around the country. Volunteer, get to know people, because those are going to become your, mentors, your colleagues, the people who hire you. They're going to become your clients. And it's just a great way to find out what people are doing and start making those contacts and figure out sustainability is such a wide topic, and there are so many areas to choose from. Just get involved in nonprofits and organizations working in those areas so you can get to know people and opportunities. And I think that's probably the best way to start.
Jump in. As we've said, it's a rising tide. And hey, thank you for sharing your story today. Everyone listening, hop on LinkedIn, connect with Jen, let her know what you thought of the interview. And I just want to say thanks for spending time with us today.
Thanks. This was great, Charlie. Thanks for having me.
I just want to say thank you to our loyal listeners. We actually are celebrating over 1 year here on the Green Building Matters podcast. Me and the entire team were stoked and just so glad you continue to listen every Wednesday morning to a new interview with a green building professional here in this industry, or just some pro tips that we want to make sure that you are getting straight from us, straight to you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Green Building Matters podcast. At gbes.com, our mission is to advance the green building movement through best-in-class education and encouragement. Remember, you can go to gbes.com/podcast for any notes and links that we mentioned in today's episode. And you can actually see the other episodes that have already been recorded with our amazing guests. Please tell your friends about this podcast. Tell your colleagues. And if you really enjoyed it, leave a positive review on iTunes. Thank you so much, and we'll see you on next week's episode.